Well, congratulations. This is it. Last 2 weeks of our semester. Glad you hung in there. It's a lot of work, but I appreciate what you've done. So this is weeks 11 and 12. Our semester will end when everybody's ends at Palomar. So we started late, but we'll end at the same time. So the big thing this week, these 2 weeks, is to get yourself ready for the last essay. And it's called a speculating essay, speculating about causes. And I can think of so many why questions that I get curious about and I don't know the answers to. So what you're going to do is you're going to take, by the way, we're on page 81. Okay, so you might take a look at page 81. So what we're going to do is think about questions that people ask. Some questions are not speculations. So they look at the sunset and they say, why does it change color? Why does it get more red as the sun sets? Well, there's a scientific answer to that. So that's not really speculating because we know the answer to it. But we have so many questions that we say, why? And all we can do is make the best guess. So I've just written down some possibilities to get you thinking about what does it mean to speculate. So how about this one? There's a famous American hymn that was composed, I don't know, 200 or 300 years ago. I say American, I mean, we're Americans, so we've heard it. It started in England. It's called Amazing Grace. Maybe you've heard that one. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. So that song has been done for hundreds of years, and it's still popular. You hear it, for example, when people die. They played it for 9/11 commemorative services. But why? What is there about that song that stirs people and it's lasted for so long? Now you can't put it in a test tube. You can't measure it and come up with your answer like you could if it was a science-related question. But this is not a scientific question. It's called a speculation because you don't have 100% proof. You can just make best guesses as to why the song is popular. Here's some others. Why are Americans known for being anti-intellectual? Right? Think about that one. Why don't we eat better? We know what kind of food we should take in. We all know that. We know that eating fast foods all the time is terrible. You ever seen that guy that ate nothing but fast food, burgers over and over and over again? His cholesterol went through the roof. He got puffy. He lost ability to walk around much. It was just awful. So we know what's the right stuff to eat, but we don't eat that. Well, why do we measure a person's worth by income? You ever thought about that? You meet somebody for the first time, and usually a question that goes back and forth is, so what do you do for a living? Well, sometimes they're just curious about the job that you do, but I think in many cases they're trying to figure out where to put you on a scale. What do you do for a living? Oh, you do such and such. That's down here. Oh, you make a lot more money. Okay, you're up here. So that's kind of weird. Why are we measuring people's worth by how much money they bring in? What about why are American kids staying home longer? It used to be at 18 or maybe after college, 22, 23. They left. They wanted to get out. They wanted to be on their own. They wanted independence. But we have story after story of American kids staying home longer and longer until their late 20s, sometimes into their 30s. Why are we such poor people? Think again about Americans. We're so poor when it comes to history. We don't know, forget world history. We don't know anything about world history. We don't know American history very well. I've talked to my classes in the past, and somehow we brought up something about the Civil War. They struggle to figure out, who fought in the Civil War, as an example. Why are people less religious than they used to be? You see the church attendance and belief in, whatever set of beliefs they have, it tends to drop a little bit. Why do you think that is? Why is it that advertising can influence us so much? I mean, think about that. You're just watching somebody on television. That's not you. It's not a friend of yours. It's just somebody out there, and they do something, and it makes you want to go buy a burger, or it makes you want to buy a car. It's like, really? Well, how does that work? How does that influence us so much mentally? How about the Titanic? You ever thought about the Titanic? How many shipwrecks have there been over the years? Thousands? How many people have lost their lives on board ships? Thousands and thousands, unfortunately. Have there been shipwrecks that involve more loss of life than the Titanic? Yes. And yet, if you say shipwrecks, what do you think of? You think of the Titanic. They have made, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 movies about the Titanic going down. They made songs about the Titanic. They've sent a little research vessel down that's actually photographed the Titanic. It's sitting on the bottom. It didn't land like this. It's like that. So you can still see the railings and all this kind of stuff. And people buy the books just to look at the pictures of that ruined wreck of the Titanic on the bottom of the ocean. Why? What is there about the Titanic? Here's another one. People won't let go of the idea of Bigfoot. You heard about Bigfoot, this big hairy ape-like thing that's supposed to be up in the northwest of the United States, Washington, Idaho, places like that. There's no evidence, none at all. In fact, there's been a lot of hoaxes, been a lot of fakes, but people keep coming back to the idea of Bigfoot. Why? Why is that? Think about television shows. Look at the list of the top 5 or 10 shows for the week and ask yourself, why are Americans buying into that particular show? Or think about music and who some of the top entertainers are. What do you think accounts for their appeal to so many people? Or look at movies. Look at the top, let's say, top 10 movies over the last 5 years. Why have those movies done so very well? So your job for this last essay is to speculate. You have to think of something and ask yourself, why? Why has this done so well? Why don't people go to the movie that I liked? I thought this, whatever the movie is, it was wonderful, but nobody went to see it. What was the problem there? So your job is to speculate about a cause. And I want you to go down to the third paragraph on page 81. Look at my second line there. You have to create a list of plausible causes and argue why you've chosen them. It's not enough to just say that's the cause. You've got to find evidence to suggest that at least it may play a role. I said your support should include anecdotes and studies or quotations or examples or illustrations, research, expert testimony. I want you, and then the last paragraph, I want you to go beyond the obvious. Okay, in many cases, you will think of one quick answer to the question why for whatever it is you pick. Oh, fine, well, use that, but go beyond the obvious. You want to surprise us. You want to impress us that you've really thought about it, and you've come up with some ideas that we would not have thought of. Otherwise, if we all think of the same thing you think of, that doesn't show much the value to what you've produced, right? So you want to go beyond the obvious here. So down the bottom of the page, I have those bullets. The first bullet, don't choose a fad. All right, so what's a fad? A fad is something that comes and goes, and nobody knows exactly why, but it doesn't last. So the Titanic has lasted for all these years, but here's a fad. Years ago, there was something called a pet rock. You ever heard of those? Ask older people about that. You could buy a rock inside a box. It was just a rock. It wasn't anything unusual. It wasn't a beautiful gem. It was nothing, but people were buying pet rocks. I didn't get it. I didn't buy one, but I don't understand that one. Why? I don't know. So those things are fads. They come, they get popular, and boom, they're gone. So don't do that. Do something that's got a little longer lasting possibility. All right, so that's what you're going to do for essay 5. Now, I'd like you to read some samples of essays that have done this. The first one you're going to recognize, I think you'll recognize the name of the author. It's Stephen King, and it's why people love horror movies. You can make horror movies for $10, right? Really low budget, and put them out there, and people are going to go see them. Why? There's something about horror movies, and Stephen King has got some really interesting ideas why he thinks people come back again and again to watch a horror movie. So there's one example of trying to answer the question why. Here's a second one. Why don't Americans like soccer? Now you may say, well, that's crazy. Americans do like soccer. Yeah, I mean, they'll watch it, but it's certainly not up there with their other sports, right? It just doesn't get the attention. So you might think about that. Why? So here's somebody that's answering the question, at least in his best way, right? So why don't Americans like soccer? Now, you don't have to agree with his findings, that's fine, but just he's going to present his ideas. Then the third one, it doesn't have why in the question, but it says it's called The Christian Gifts of J.R.R. Tolkien. Do you recognize that name? Tolkien's the one that did The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So there are a lot of reasons why he should not be popular, but he's immensely popular. They keep collecting his stories. They keep selling these things. And the movies did a tremendous box office. So there's something going on inside of Tolkien's world that attracts people. And so this author tries to answer the question, why has Tolkien maintained this popularity? He's just amazing as far as how people have reacted to him. All right, then the other thing you're going to do this week is some style work. Remember last week I said, last part of the semester, I really want to focus on having your language sing when you write. And here's some things we're going to talk about this week. Connotation. What's connotation? It's emotional language that you can use. Certain words have great emotional value, and if you drop them in your language, in your writings, or your speaking, it'll give your presentation more power. Figures of speech. We have things called metaphors and similes, especially, or they're called figures of speech. If you drop a few figures of speech in your language, people will love it. So I'll give you some examples to work with. Allusions, not illusions like letter I, that would be a mirage, something that's not really there. An allusion, A-L-L, allusion. What are allusions? Well, read about it and we'll talk about it. And then I want you to kind of look over everything that we said about style. I've got a couple of pages in our textbook that do that, and so you can read the information on it. So once again, let me thank you very much for being part of this class. It was unusual as far as the starting date and all, and thank you for working with me and the fact that you were independent enough to be able to pull this off for a full semester without having a teacher looking over your shoulder all the time. And I hope you like this kind of a presentation being online. Again, any questions, let me know. I'll submit the grades as soon as I can. It usually takes like a day for the office to get it all done so that you can then access the grades for the class. So many, many thanks for this semester. I appreciate all the hard work you put in. Take care.